clearly they're playing on the president's health, which is shown to be totally crazy because he clearly is doing his job. Look at what he's done to the economy. Look at what he's done with legislation.
Just look at everything he's done for the economy and for the legislation. Hey, gas is up by like 30 to 40 cents this month, I think, right? The economy, it's so great. Oh, comrade workers. Joseph Biden, he make economy strong like bull. That was naturally the Reverend Al Charlatan praising Joe Biden's economic prowess. What a hero Joe Biden is, honestly. We are truly blessed to be alive on Earth while Joe Biden is president of the United States, aren't we? Or not? Amazing. That's too funny. Too funny. Yeah, we've got a new acting police chief in Washington, D.C. Happy Friday to you, and welcome once again. We are at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625, coming to you live from crime-ridden Washington, D.C. Woohoo! Crime-ridden. Hey, how many carjackings today, Jim?
You got your catalytic converter?
Yeah, you got your catalytic converter ripped out of your engine block. Maybe your airbags ripped off of your steering wheel. Maybe just carjacked the old-fashioned way with a gun to the head, stealing your fine automobile. The problem is not our guns, it's your sons. But we have a new acting police chief, which means she's not really a police officer. She went to drama school, and now she's an acting police chief. She acts like a police chief. She was the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And that's DEI, but here it's diversity, inclusion, and equity because they made it die. That's the thing. But our new acting police chief, she's out there complaining that police officers and even the commanders in the D.C. Police Department, too many of them are just standing around at crime scenes. They're just standing around at crime scenes. Really, they should be shooting more people, don't you think? The police should probably be shooting more people. That's the thing. Of course, one of the problems is that the Democrats who run the city make sure that if the police do anything, that they'll lynch the police. And that's how you get a crime-ridden city. And how many police are we down, Michael? We're down more than 500 police officers in the D.C. Police Department. It's a city of about 61 square miles, not counting the rivers. And we're down more than 500 police officers, and they can't recruit because the Democrats have made it evil to be a police officer because they're the criminals. That's the thing. So it's kind of crazy. We asked the police to go and put those little, folding yellow things next to the shell casings on the street. That's what they do. Then have a cup of coffee, and, if you do anything more than that, then the Democrats will lynch you. That's the deal, and everybody knows it. And I've spoken to police officers. I've told you about it a couple of times. Spoken to police officers that have told me as much as well. Policing as a verb is not really in vogue in the United States of America right now, and certainly not in Washington, D.C., because the left is in charge of so much. Just amazing. The Democrats have handcuffed the police. That's what's going on here, amazingly. Just remarkable stuff. We were just talking about, in case you're just joining us, we were talking about a Native American organization demanding, that's their word, they have a demand that the Washington Commanders change their name back to the Washington Redskins, which is just great, a wonderful thing. And we were talking during the break here. And Jasmine, who is on phones today, and a wonderful person and a great American, back from a few weeks in Europe, traveling around with Mom, having a good time. And Jasmine speaks many languages. She is fluent in numerous languages. And one of the languages is Farsi. That's the language of Iran. And in Farsi, the term that they use for Native Americans is it's Sorkpust. Is that right? Sorkpust. And Sorkpust is the term that they use for Native Americans. And literally translated, what it means is red skin. Sork, red, pust, skin. So in Farsi, when they're referring to Native Americans, they use Sorkpust, and Sorkpust means red skin, which is just kind of a fun. We like to share, cultural tips here on the Chris Plant Show, and that's a fun one, I think. Isn't that fun? In Farsi. So maybe we should change the name of the football team to the Sorkpust, the Washington Sorkpust. Since Joe Biden is in the process, once again, of giving billions more dollars to the Ayatollahs, to the mullahs in Tehran. I like to say Tehran. I don't really. I just say Tehran. But, Sorkpust. That's a lot of fun. I love fun cultural stories. That's a fun one. Isn't that great? And Jasmine, brilliant young woman who, I mean, how many languages? How many languages do you speak? 46. That's a lot of languages. Three. English is one of them, and then the Farsi, and then the speaking. And Jasmine also works as a translator. She has more than one job, as so many of us do. And I've got a second job on Newsmax. See how I go do a TV show, and it's on at 9 p.m. Eastern every night. But it's the new thing. All right, so, and I do want to move on from that because there's a great deal of news to get to. But before we do, let's first go to Ed, calling from Charleston, South Carolina. Eduardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. I just wanted to give another possible name for the Washington Commanders or whatever they are, and that is Red Tails. Mm-hmm. Red Tails was a Tuskegee Army there were military pirates. Yeah, pirates. Pilots.
Pilots, yeah. Sure, the Red Tails were the Tuskegee Airmen in World War II, African-American fighter pilots in Europe with an absolutely extraordinary record and number of decorations and one of the honestly proudest units of World War II, American units of World War II, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and so you could keep red. You could keep red. Just add tails, red tails, which apparently their airplanes were. They had a red tail on them. They had some type of marking on the tail of the airplane that was red.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were very courageous, very brave. Fought the Nazis just like your father did, and I think that would be very educational for a lot of folks to understand what these African-American military pilots did to protect us from the Nazis.
Yeah, you bet. Now, the Native American group that's demanding that the name be changed back to Redskins probably don't want it to be Red Tails. But let me tell you, Ed, there's a great motion picture that was made a handful of years ago called Red Tails, and about the Tuskegee Airmen, of course. And it's a fine movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it's quite good. And I actually fact-checked it when I was watching it at home. It has great flying scenes. I love a good movie with great flying scenes. This, Top Gun Maverick, great flying scenes. Worth and my best girl and I went and saw it in IMAX at the Udvar Hazy Air and Space Museum Annex at Dulles Airport on their giant, I think, biggest IMAX screen on the East Coast. And we saw that Maverick, Top Gun Maverick movie there, and it was great because of the flying scenes. And it's a good movie, that the new Top Fun, as I like to call it. But Red Tails has great flying scenes too, great flying scenes. And it was an extraordinary unit in World War II. There are still members of the Red Tails who are with us. And you see them interviewed, and they're the greatest. They're just great people. And serious and leaders, and they shot down, Messerschmitts all over the place, including they shot down 3, for people who know their World War II aircraft. The Me-109 was the primary Messerschmitt German fighter, and then the Me-262, the Messerschmitt 262, was the first jet aircraft in warfare, in combat, and the Nazis put it up. And the Red Tails shot down 3 of them. And I think that's more than any other squadron. They're kind of hard to shoot down. They were jets, and you're flying in a single-engine prop plane. Pretty amazing stuff. Red Tails is one alternative, to be sure. That's for sure.
There's a reason why it's been harder to get African Americans initially to get vaccinated, because they used to being experimented on. The Tuskegee Airmen and others.
Right, that's our president. What a maroon, I got to tell you. The Tuskegee Airmen versus the Tuskegee experiments. But Joe Biden doesn't know the difference.
People have memories.
Not
People
you.
have long memories.
Yeah, not everybody, but some people do. Ed, thank you for the call. Now, with that said, it is Friday, and there is still a lot going on in Crazy Land because there are a lot of Democrats on the loose, and that leads to a lot of crazy. And here's one story that got our attention yesterday. Vegans are not just vegetarians. It's not that they won't eat meat, beef and chicken and fish. They won't. But they also won't eat anything that has dairy, like, from milk, from cow. I'm going like this with my hands like I'm milking a cow. They won't eat anything with milk, cheese, anything like that. And eggs, they won't eat anything. What was the one I heard the other day they won't eat honey. There are vegans that won't eat honey because it comes from bees, which are animals. And here's the story. An Australian mother refuses to get rid of her child's nits, that is head lice, right? Because she's a vegan. She doesn't want to hurt the lice. This is this is what the woman is saying. She doesn't want to harm animals, so she combs the lice into the garden so that they have the best chance of survival. And there are pictures here. There are pictures here of the mother with a comb. She's a liberal. See, she's what self-describes as a liberal. Usually when your child gets head lice, you desperately try every method to kill them off as soon as possible. But one Australian mother has taken the opposite approach. She doesn't want to harm the lice. You didn't read this story, did you? I can see by your reaction that you didn't read this. And her bizarre, you're the father of a young boy, and her bizarre reasoning will leaving you scratching your head, even if you don't have lice. Pretty amazing stuff, according to a very concerned parent. Wrote in an advice column that her neighbor won't treat her daughter. Usually use some kind of toxic, like alcohol. I don't know what she used.
Shampoo.
Yeah, shampoo, anti-lice shampoo. But it might kill the lice. So this woman, because she's a liberal, could care less about human beings, but the tiny little parasitic insects are her friends, and she talks to them, I think. She's pretty amazing.
Well, I was thinking of going vegan.
I'm a level 5 vegan. I won't eat anything that casts a shadow.
Wow.
She explains, my 7-year-old daughter is best friends with the girl next door whose family are vegan. That's fine. We respect their choice. My problem is that recently this otherwise delightful child was at our house and scratching furiously. And I discovered she was crawling with head lice after mentioning the nits. The nits, you can call them nits too, nitpickers, To the girl's mother, the mother said she was aware of them, but didn't want to harm them, didn't want to harm the lice, as vegans don't kill living things. That's what she said, because she's, she told me her practice was combing the lice, the nits, into the garden where they had the best chance of survival. Now, in the garden, that's where your food is growing, I think, right? You have a garden and you're growing food, so you want to pick the nits, the lice off your 7-year-old girl's head and put them in your food instead, where you might eat them, which seems to me is another way of killing them. Every day is an IQ test. Hey, do you have odors in your home you just can't get rid of? Well, now you can get rid of any odor with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm gets rid of strong odors from cooking, cigarette smoke, litter boxes, trash cans. Even leftists are no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The thunderstorm starts working in a matter of seconds, humming along in my living room right now at home. I have two of them. Any odor will just be disposed of in no time at all. It's a miracle. You can hold one in your hand. They're only this big. Plus, there are no expensive filters to buy on a schedule and replace and put in on your calendar. None of that. More than 350,000 Eden Pure Thunderstorm units already sold. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. You can find them yourself. Listen, during this week, I've got a great deal for you. To own your own Eden Pure Thunderstorm, right now, you can save $200 American when you buy 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms for whole home protection. Bring one to the office, put one in the teenager's room. That's 3 units for under $200. Just go to EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. Enter the discount code Chris. That's me. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris. Plus, you get free shipping. Yes, sir. Yeah. Says liberals. People they don't care much about. But lice. They romance lice. They talk to lice. They want to help them survive. Then they send checks to Planned Parenthood. Hey, it's Chris Plant. Excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. I've got Biden and Kabul Kirby is back. He loves Tehran, Kabul Kirby. That's coming up. Billions more for Iran because of Joe Biden being a moron and the people surrounding him being sycophants, liars, and fools. But I'll get into that shortly. And there's a lot more than that. Also, Congressman Comer and the corrupt Biden family because, it's Friday. And Joe Manchin, crime, mayhem. O.J. Simpson, we have O.J. Simpson for you today, too. And Bud Light and Billy Bush. That's all coming up. Let's go to Dave, calling from Silver Spring. Even though we don't have a ton of time, Dave, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dave.
Real quick, before I get to what I called about this vegan mother who wouldn't kill the lice on her daughter's head.
Yeah.
If we could convince the vegans to swear off eating any food that was made with carbon dioxide, I think we'd have a winner there. Solve the carbon footprint problem.
Also, vegetables are made through the exploitation of bees by pollinating, and they shouldn't agree to patronize businesses that utilize bees.
But all plants breathe carbon dioxide, so I think we'd have a winner. What I called about, since you were talking about changing names, I'd like to submit for consideration by the Secret Service. They have a code name for each protectee. I think Hunter Biden should be Moscow Mule.
The Moscow Mule. The Moscow Mule. I love fun with Secret Service code names. And Moscow Mule for Hunter Biden. Because right now, his Secret Service code name is the Crackhead, which is, that way everybody knows who it is. Now, the radical left-wing agitators posing as journalists at the New York Times who are in bed with the Biden White House, squirming around together like pigs under a blanket. The New York Times was told last night by the Biden White House that something real good's going to happen. Something real good. It's going to be real good. They're going to give billions of dollars to the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, and that's Iran, Tehran, right? And the Ayatollah and the mullahs, because they love killing everybody. They're waging war in Yemen and in Syria, and they give millions to Hezbollah, which is a radical Islamic terrorist organization, mostly in Lebanon, firing rockets in Israel because Iran and Hezbollah are dedicated to the total destruction of the state of Israel, kind of like a lot of Democrats on Capitol Hill, from the river to the sea, the River Jordan and all that stuff to the Mediterranean Sea. And we know that there are so many Democrats that are against the existence of Israel. Just don't call them anti-Semites, because that label is reserved for people that mention the name George Soros, right? While telling truths about what George Soros is doing to increase the murder rate in cities across America by way of Democrat prosecutors that don't prosecute crimes. See, it's like that. And I mentioned only in passing yesterday, I think, that I'm scheduled for jury duty on Monday in Washington, D.C. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm scheduled for jury duty. And when I go in for jury duty, one of the things that, if they give me the opportunity to ask and to answer questions and stuff, I'm going to want to mention that in Washington, D.C., when you look at the number of people arrested for crimes, the Democrat prosecutor in Washington chooses not to prosecute 67% of the crimes that people are arrested for in Washington, D.C. by the police. And then the acting police chief and head of diversity, inclusion, and equity wonders why the police are standing around at crime scenes instead of waving their arms about and jumping up and down and yelling or something. Really should just be shooting people all over the place. The police should. I don't know what she wants, but neither does she, so that's okay. But when I go in for jury duty, I'm going to ask why they don't prosecute 67% of the people arrested, because your leftists are pro-crime, and then say, so obviously the remaining 33% are so guilty, so obviously guilty, that the prosecutor couldn't just, push them out the door with a gift basket like he does with everybody else. So obviously anybody that makes it this far in the process, to this point where they're in the courtroom on trial, so guilty that even you pro-crime lunatics couldn't let them walk out the door. Am I right, Your Honor? So that'll be my first question. And we'll see how that goes. But that's amazing stuff. Now, with that said, the Biden administration is planning on giving $6 billion more to the Ayatollahs, right? And the New York Times was let in on the secret last night by the Biden White House because they wanted to get their spin on it. And when the Democrats want to do that, they can go to the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Los Angeles Times or to CNN or to ABC News or to MSDNC. And hey, wait, they went to MSDNC this morning, didn't they? With Kabul Kirby, the now disgraced former Admiral, one-star Kabul Kirby, John Kirby, retired from the United States Navy, and now he lies for the Biden administration. That's his job. And that's, he's the one who, when Kabul there were people being crushed in the landing gear of C-17 aircraft taking off from the, Hamid Karzai International Airport instead of from Bagram Air Base, then that was a real good idea to give up Bagram Air Base and use the airport downtown. Led to 13 Americans being murdered in a suicide attack, but pay no attention to that. But it was Kabul Kirby, this is where he earned his moniker, who said, "What chaos? I don't see any chaos." And here's the video of people clinging to the landing gear and holding onto the side of C-17 aircraft taking off big Air Force transport planes. And chaos? What chaos? Boom. Chaos? What chaos? Says Kabul Kirby, following in the footsteps of Baghdad Bob, who in Iraq worked for Saddam Hussein. But Kabul Kirby was on the television this morning. The Fox News people, they read the New York Times after the Biden people fed the story to the New York Times. Republicans torch Biden paying Iran $6 billion for American hostages. Quote, a terrible deal. The Biden administration must punish those who use Americans as political pawns. They have hostages, they're Iranian-American hostages, and they've been holding them in this terrible prison, 4 of them. One of them has been under house arrest for much longer, but they took the other 4 out of this terrible prison in Iran and put them under house arrest, which I guess is better, and it probably is. And they're, now horse trading, as it were, with the Biden administration. And Biden is like, hey, we'll give you $6 billion. They still complain about arms for hostages under Ronald Reagan 40 years ago or something. And they do it every day. And of course, you remember the Obama administration funneled billions to the Ayatollahs in Tehran because they're not on our side, the Democrats and of course, Barack Hussein Obama. You can't say that because that's racist, because Hussein is a race or something like that. Democrats, I got to tell you, the left is completely insane. They think Islam is a race, at least when it's politically convenient to say that it is. So it turns out Republicans online torched President Biden's $6 billion deal to free American hostages from the Iranian regime. The New York Times, naturally, reported Thursday, after having it fed to them by the Biden White House, that Biden had negotiated the release. He's not much of a negotiator, what with the very limited brain size and all of that. Had negotiated the release of 5 American hostages. They don't call them hostages, though. From Iran, this is a regime that was born of a crime in 1979 when they overran the American embassy and took, what did they take, Michael? Hostages. They took hostages. That's what they did. And it's been a criminal enterprise ever since. And, but the Obama-Biden administration fed them tens of billions of dollars and then greenlighted, because Boltneck was negotiating with them, right? Greenlighted their nuclear program, because one of the world's most oil-rich countries desperately needs, wink, wink, nuclear energy. No. They're very concerned about the environment. No. Instead, the Boltneck and the Obama-Biden people said, no, you can go ahead and continue to spin centrifuges at one of your many nuclear facilities and enrich uranium that you're obviously going to use to build nuclear bombs with which to kill the Jews and the great Satan. The great Satan is us, the United States of America, Washington, D.C. And also, sure, continue with your ballistic missile program, because we see it's becoming very advanced, and we want you to become more advanced in your ballistic missile program and to continue to spin centrifuges and enrich uranium. And you can do that at sites that are not subject to inspection by the so-called United Nations. That's fine. And we'll free up all your frozen assets, tens of billions of dollars, maybe $150 billion, and that'll all be fine. So the New York Times reported Thursday that Biden had negotiated the release of the 5 American hostages from Iran in exchange for a handful of Iranian nationals serving prison sentences for actual crimes, by the way, and found guilty in a court of law, not grabbed at their hotels and thrown into a hellhole prison as hostages, sentenced for violating sanctions against the Islamic Republic. See, they were violating sanctions against the Islamic Republic here in the United States. Those are crimes. Sources told the New York Times, the Biden White House fed the story to the New York Times, that the U.S. also agreed to unfreeze nearly $6 billion of Iran's assets in South Korea, transferring the funds to an account in the central bank in Qatar. Qatar. It's like Johnny Qatar, right? And now they like to say Qatar, which means you also have to say Paris, right? And Deutschland, and they're really dumb. They're really dumb people. So $6 billion and the release of Iranian nationals who are in prisons in the United States for actually breaking the law, which is a completely different thing. This is what hostage taking is all about. So Republicans blasted the deal online with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying Iran shouldn't profit from holding Americans hostage. Now let's go to Kabul Kirby, because Kabul Kirby, the disgraced former naval officer, now lies for the Biden administration. And he was on the television this morning with Donnie Douche and the gang at Morning Joke. Joe Scarborough. What happened to that woman that worked in his office in Florida? Really, she just fell, a young, healthy woman, and hit her head on a table and then died? That's kind of peculiar, isn't it? So here's Kabul Kirby, and then he's got his semi-inflatable flotation device of a third wife, Mika Brzezinski, who has the IQ of a lice. It turns out that is pretty amazing. So here's Kabul Kirby on Morning Joke being fluffed today by the clowns that make stuff up all the time about how if Trump is elected, what is it? We're gonna.
So they're gonna cancel the show. There's no more freedom.
There'll be no more freedom, no more democracy, and Morning Joe will be canceled. Because Donnie Douche says on cable television that the FCC, which doesn't regulate cable television, will do away with the show Morning Joke because They're mental. They're mental dwarves. Here's Kabul Kirby this morning.
What we're talking about here are Iranian funds that were in a South Korean account that they couldn't access for a lot of technical reasons. This was an account set up by the previous administration.
This was an account set up by the to freeze Iranian funds, you see, because of the many crimes they're committing and funding Hezbollah and war in Syria and war in Yemen, to name just a few of their things. Members of the regime actually blew up a few years ago a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires, Argentina, because they couldn't sleep at night knowing that Jews were playing ping pong in Buenos Aires. So they went and blew it up. And that's what they do. So here he is. And now the previous administration, wink, wink, Trump, you see. But wait a minute. You mean the Trump administration, you mean the United States of America, and 7 other countries froze these assets in a financial institution in South Korea because of the many crimes being committed by the Ayatollahs. And now they're going to unfreeze them because, wink, wink, Trump did it. And the receptive audience at Morning Joke, they're all in agreement. Yeah, Trump did it. We got to undo it. They're closer to Iran on the political spectrum than they are to Trump, because Trump's on our side. Iran is not, and neither are they. Kabul Kirby.
This was an account set up by the previous administration. They did it with South Korea and 7 other countries under what's called a significant reduction exception program. It was a way to discourage countries from importing Iranian oil. Now, the Iranians couldn't get that account unfrozen. They couldn't get access to that money. So what we're talking about doing is moving that account to a country like Qatar where they can get access to it.
Because we want them to have $6 billion more. And but we're only going to let them use the money for humanitarian reasons. But we're going to declare nuclear programs, enriching uranium and spinning centrifuges to be humanitarian efforts.
But only for discrete, limited, and narrow humanitarian purposes. And the United States and Qatar and aid organizations will have the right to veto any withdrawal requests to make sure that it's going to the Iranian people and not to the regime. The regime won't get a dime of this. It's all designed for food, medicine, medical equipment for the Iranian people. And again, this is a move that would make it accessible to them.
Yeah, we'll give them the money. That's the thing, and that's what the Democrats are claiming. But they lie all the time. You see, and you may recall again the Biden's $90 billion bailout of Iran. Foreign Policy magazine, written by Lindsey Graham in last year, and the rejoining the Iran nuclear deal would undo years of progress in the Middle East. Lindsey Graham wrote in 2021. Let me just these Democrats are not on our side. Yeah, that was in 2021. Another $90 billion for the Iranian regime because of, And then let me go to factcheck.org, which is a fake fact-check organization. It's a front group for the Democrat Party. And Saranac Hale Spencer wrote in 2019, Obama didn't give Iran $150 billion in cash. And no, they unfroze up to $150 billion in frozen assets, frozen because of their terrorist activities, because they're a criminal regime. And these fakes at factcheck.org go on to say, it might have only been $50 billion. And then, of course, there was the video that was discovered, the photographs of the Obama-Biden administration delivering transport planes filled with cash, pallets of cash wrapped in shrink wrap, under cover of darkness in the middle of the night to remote airports to deliver the pallets of euros, billions of dollars in euros, to Iran because they're not on our side and they're closer on the political spectrum to the Ayatollahs than they are to Donald Trump. And I have more on this. Breaking news, President Biden's plan to introduce a digital dollar is already underway, and it's vital to understand the potential consequences of this madness. Contrary to their phony baloney claims, this initiative is not in your best interest. Time is of the essence, so taking action now is absolutely necessary to protect yourself and your financial future. You can help protect your savings from the risks of the digital dollar by diversifying now with gold and silver IRAs. Call the experts at American Alternative Assets. We really like American Alternative Assets. They're great. Call them today at 888-4GOLD20. Learn new stuff. That's 888-446-5360. They'll give you all the guidance you need on safeguarding your retirement savings, everything you've worked for all your life. Say no to Biden's digital dollar. Call 888-4GOLD20. That's 888-446-5360. Call them now. Individual results may vary. There is no guarantee that past performance of gold and silver will be indicative of future results. Seek your own legal, tax, investment, and financial advice before opening an account. Yeah, so here it is, the Democrats and Iran. Again, you know, the takeover was during Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter hung the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, out to dry and betrayed an important ally in the Middle East who was much more on the side of civilization than the Ayatollahs that took over with a crime. A couple of minor details there.
The regime won't get a dime of this. It's all designed for food, medicine, medical equipment for the Iranian people.
That's right, just medicine. Antibiotics because of the widespread monkeypox cases they have there. You know, a lot of STDs or STIs. Or SDIs, the Strategic Defense Initiative, because of their ballistic missiles. And Michael Piercy said, yeah, all the money is just intended for humanitarian stuff. And all the money that goes into the lottery goes to schools, right? Or it doesn't, because it doesn't. That's the thing about it. That was the big line. No, the lottery is going to, the money will raise money for the children and the schools. And they will have the backpacks, and the teachers will be real good, and they'll learn to read and write. Or not. They'll learn to read Mao's Little Red Book. Yeah, so there's Kabul Kirby. No, it's all good. It's you can trust them. And the Ayatollahs, you can trust them too. All right, let's go to soundbite number one, and that is former Vice President Michael Pence, who was asked about this harebrained, and again, the Iranians, of course, they're lying to us, playing all cagey and dicey with how this all started. Did it start when the Iranians came to us and said, hey, we're going to give you 5 hostages back? 5 hostages. Or did it start when Joe Biden said, hey, we're going to give you $6 billion? Also, I've got an update on Joe Biden and Ukraine. Maybe another $25 billion for Ukraine. That their Biden investments are really paying off.